Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
And today we're talking about Alien, released in 1979, directed by Ridley Scott, written by Dan O'Bannon, from a story by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett. I don't know, however you say that name. Starring Sigourney Weaver, Tom Skerritt, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, John Hurt, Ian Holm, Yaphet Kotto. Again, don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And that's pretty much it. There's another guy played the alien. He was in the alien suit, but I will never pronounce that name correctly. And then there was a voice of Mother, but that's pretty much the cast. It was only, there was the crew of the Nostromo was only 7 people.
And I recognized John Hurt and Ian Holm. I did not know they were in this movie.
Yeah.
And I thought I recognized them, and then I looked them up and was like, yeah, it was them. John Hurt I recognized because the only other movie.
He
was in Harry Potter too, wasn't he?
John Hurt was. Ian Holm was not.
Well, yeah, I know that.
Well, I thought you were just talking about Ian Holm.
No, I was talking about John Hurt. Did I say Ian Holm?
Maybe, I don't know.
I guess when we go back,
we'll find out.
Listen to this, we'll find out. Anyway, I think I said John Hurt, but maybe I didn't.
Whatever.
Anyway, I saw him in the Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really know John Hurt from is 1984.
I've never seen that or read it.
Which I need to watch the movie again without reading the book, because I watched the movie right after I finished reading the book, and I did not like the movie that much.
Sure, yeah, I do that all the time. Well, I do that all the time where I read a book and I'm like, this book was great, I want to watch the movie, and then I watch the movie and I go, man, that movie sucks.
Yeah,
and it's never a good idea, I think.
Actually, in 1984, very well might be my favorite book of all time.
Oh, wow.
So I was really excited to watch the movie.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
It was the same, but I didn't enjoy the movie the same. Is
right.
What I mean.
Sure.
As far as the same goes, as much as I did the book.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
No, I've had that experience many times where as soon as I finish a book, I go, man, I want to watch the movie now. And I watch the movie and I go, man, I really wish I hadn't watched the movie.
That happened to me with Misery too.
Misery.
Except I've had a chance to go back. I rewatched Misery not too long ago, and I really enjoyed the movie this time. I didn't dislike the movie, right after I read the book, but I definitely was like, the book was so much better.
I think you have to give it a little bit of time. You have to kind of almost forget the details of the book in order to really enjoy the movie. Because, for example, I read Ready Player One about a year before the movie came out, and when
I had no idea that was a book.
Yeah, it's a very popular book. Anyway, I went and saw.
I was married for 13 years and I could still have 4 kids. Yeah. Let's just say I was unplugged from
pop
the
culture
world for a while.
Yeah, sure. Understandable. But anyway, I loved the movie. I loved Ready Player One. And I went and saw it for like a second time with my sister, and she had just finished the book. And she came out of the movie being like, but they changed this and they didn't do this. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. So I do feel like if you give it a little time, like if you watch the movie right when you finish the book, of course the book is always going to be better. And you're going to compare the movie to the book 100%. But if you give it a little time and let yourself kind of forget the details, like the minor details or whatever of the book, then I feel like you can kind of enjoy the movie a little bit more. I've wanted to do that. Like I watched Dune, the 1984 Dune, right after reading. I
still need to read that because the movie's coming out.
Yeah, and I was like, I still liked the movie, but I was like, man, that was nowhere near as good as the book.
See, I want to read because I actually started Dune, and I knew when I started Dune that I wanted to the movie.
Yeah.
And I knew, and I've started the book too, But when I started the book, I think that's when that's what it was. I started Dune, and then I found when I was working at Second and Charles, someone brought in a used copy of It, which I had been looking for like a couple months at least.
So you were like, forget Dune for a minute. I'm gonna read It. Yeah,
because I was only like at a chapter into Dune, if that.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I started both the book and the movie, and I remember when I was watching the movie, I was like, I know this book supposedly is incredible and has a huge following, and I was like, I want to I want to read the book. So
yeah,
I stopped watching it.
You should read it because I started reading it because it was a book that I felt like I needed to read because I knew it had a big following too, but I also knew the new movie was coming out, and so I finally decided to read it during quarantine of 2020, and I felt like, because I know it's a long book, and I felt like I was like, this was a book written in the 60s, I think. I don't know how good it's going to be. And I fell in love with that book. I thought it was amazing and bought all the other Dune books by Frank Herbert. And I've read the first 3 so far.
Do they compare?
They're good. The second one is way shorter than the first one. But the second and third books are actually pretty good. I think they're I like them. But the first book is still probably my favorite. It blew me away. And so then I watched the movie after I read the book, and it's cool. I like that it is a movie based on Dune, but it's nowhere.
It's probably majorly dated too.
Yeah, well, that too. It's over 30 years old.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's made in the 80s, right?
It was 84, I believe. Yeah. But anyway, Alien is not based on a book. This is an original story, and I don't know how we got on this exactly, but
I'm assuming that a lot of people that like the Alien franchise like the Dune franchise too.
That's very possible. Yes,
just an assumption, but yes, Alien. Let's get back to the movie.
Yes.
Do you remember? Oh man, it's funny because I just realized this and I wasn't thinking about it for the podcast, but I actually have. Let's just say Alien is a little bit of a milestone for me. Do you have a memory of seeing Alien for the first time?
I kind of do. I have. I didn't see Alien until after I saw Aliens, but I think I was an adult when I finally saw Alien. I think I was working at Blockbuster at the time, and I finally rented it.
Okay, well, even though don't go in obviously the detail about Aliens, but do you remember that, because that would have been, I guess, your introduction, obviously, into the franchise?
Yes, I do. I remember seeing Aliens for the first time very vividly, and I'll tell that story. Sorry, I'm trying to scoop my chair up there. I'll tell that story when we talk about Aliens. But the one thing that kind of spoiled this movie for me, and by the way, we're about to get into spoiler territory here, was in Aliens, Ripley is very, what's the word? Untrusting of Bishop.
Oh, yeah.
And because I watched Aliens with a friend of mine, I watched it with his family when I was like in middle school-ish kind of age, I think. And
really?
Yeah, I feel like I was maybe in 8th grade. It was probably around 97-ish, I think. 96-ish. And because I'll tell you this. We were going to go see Twister in the theater.
A PG-13
film.
Is it 13?
PG-13, yeah. Twister.
Yeah, you're right, it is.
We were going to go see Twister, but it was sold out. So we ended up going to Blockbuster, renting Aliens, and we watched it at my friend's house. And so because I hadn't seen Alien, they explained to me, they were like, well, she's not trusting of Bishop because there was an android on her in the first movie that like betrayed them. But they didn't tell me who it was. So I remember the first time seeing this movie.
That's cool.
Trying to kind of figure out who the android was.
Dude, I totally forgot.
Oh, really?
Because I've only seen this. This is maybe the third time I've seen this movie.
Okay, all right.
And when I saw the white dripping,
Yeah,
I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Because I've seen Aliens 6 or 7 times at least.
Yeah, I've seen. I actually kind of think I may have seen this movie more than I've seen Aliens.
Really interesting.
I don't know. I feel like I've seen this movie about 6 times, maybe half a dozen times.
Wow.
And I've seen Aliens roughly the same, but maybe a little less. And I wish I had actually kind of watched the theatrical version when I watched this movie today. But instead, I watched the director's cut because I thought I had never seen the director's cut.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
The one that I watched was on HBO. Is that the theatrical?
I'm not sure. But I would assume it's the theatrical version, but I don't know.
I would imagine too.
I watched
it didn't say director's cut, so if it doesn't say it, then it's probably theatrical.
Right. Well, here's a good question for you. Do you remember a scene with Ripley finding Dallas and Brett like hung up on the wall? And
I don't think so.
Yeah. So according to the research I did,
hung up on the wall.
Yeah, it's kind of like in Aliens. Like you see. Remember in Aliens when you see the people like.
Oh, like after they died.
Kind of, yeah, but they're like still like barely alive.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah,
does she like talk? I would imagine that she like goes to them.
Kind of. She sees them, and Dallas is saying he's like kill me, and she ends up burning him with a flamethrower. Yeah,
no.
See, I remember that scene. I forgot about it, but when I watched it today, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this scene. And then I looked it up, and I realized that scene was a director's cut scene. So I was like, well, maybe I actually don't remember the theatrical version that well. Maybe I should watch that more next time or whatever. But yeah, the other, I think there's one other scene in the director's cut that's not in the theatrical version. That is, what is it? It's when there's Ripley doesn't want to let them back on the spaceship. So when John Hurt's character, Kane, gets attacked by the facehugger, they are trying to bring him back on the spaceship. And Sigourney Weaver's character, Ripley, she basically is kind of spouting quarantine laws to them. And she's like, if we bring him on, he might infect the rest of the...
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, so maybe that's in the theatrical version. So I don't know. Maybe I read that was a part of the director's cut, but maybe not.
Well, maybe I don't remember the wall scene. So, I don't know. It's possible. Dude, I have
who knows
untreated ADD. I've been diagnosed,
but
I'm not currently taking medication for it. So, it is very possible that scene was right in front of my face, and I was staring at it.
You just didn't process it.
Didn't process it?
Yeah.
Not even when it was happening. So,
well,
I don't know.
That's fine. Well, do you have a memory of seeing it for the first time?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Because I was not allowed to watch rated R movies.
Sure, me neither.
And
I actually had to call and get permission to watch Aliens.
That's why. Well, so I was in 5th grade, and this wasn't the reason my dad decided to do it. I don't know why. I guess he was like, you're in 5th grade, you're getting ready to go to middle school. I'm going to be watching the movie. Sure, let's rent a rated R movie. And my best friend at the time was spending the night, and he and his family, his dad, and like they were totally fine with them watching rated R movies. Like he was actually the friend that I had that introduced me to It. And like they liked watching horror movies and stuff. So like Halloween, like Michael Myers. I didn't watch the movie, but I knew who Michael Myers was through this family.
Yeah.
So they were really into film and didn't censor even like, they're like they had like I'm guessing their youngest daughter at the time was like 4 years old, and like had seen some of these movies. So like I said, there just wasn't censorship there. But he was spending the night, so it wasn't a big deal to him. He'd probably seen the movie already. But my dad was like, sure, we'll rent a movie. And it just blew me away because I was like, my dad's letting me rent a rated R movie? And it's like Alien, and like I'm super excited. Another reason it stuck out to me was because apparently I used to write in school for projects very violent stories.
Me too.
And my teacher contacted my parents and said, "This is a little concerning because your son's writing very violent content." And I would try to change it up. And I one time made him robots, and I had a T-Rex bite a robot in half and everything in my school writing, and just so there wasn't blood, but it was still violent. Interestingly enough, after my dad let us rent Alien, and we watched Alien, and I thought it was awesome. And I think we rented Aliens the next weekend. I was like, "Hey, do you want to spend the night again? Let's get Aliens."
That's awesome.
But interestingly enough, my writing apparently stopped being violent after that, and never had heard about it again. And I've always wondered if I just had to, if my writing, the fact that I've always wondered if being able to start watching rated R movies, because after my dad let me get Alien, we started renting every weekend, Stephen King movies and horror movies. And, yeah. So I was after that moment,
you realized you could kind of handle it.
Yeah. I got to watch The Phantasm and all these rated R movies.
Oh,
wow. So, but, like I said, apparently my violent. So I was wondering if seeing the movies now kind of got that out of my system, so I didn't have to write about it and fantasize about it anymore.
maybe, yeah.
I don't know. It was kind of interesting, but yes, Alien was a big movie for me because it was the first rated R movie that my dad was like, "Let's rent a rated R movie and let's watch it," and I got to do that.
That's awesome. It's funny that you mentioned about the violent writing, because I had something similar. I didn't really write violent stuff, but I used to draw pictures of. I wasn't very, I liked to draw a lot when I was a kid, but I wasn't very good at it. So all the people I drew were standing up straight, very not very actiony poses. But I used to draw knives being stuck into them and blood coming out and stuff. And I remember it wasn't a teacher, it was a teacher's aide found them in a desk in the classroom. And she was very upset about it. And she wasn't upset disturbed, she was upset mad. And I remember she's mentioned something about talking to my parents or something, and I got kind of scared. But I used to love drawing people just being I guess stabbed or having bullet wounds or something, just very violent pictures.
I did too, because I also drew, and I was actually good at it. I'm kidding. Well, I was, but anyway. Yeah, no,
I
definitely
wasn't terrible. I just didn't.
I'm kidding. Sorry. I'm sure you were good at it. I don't know. You're the one that said you weren't good at it.
I mean, I just drew them in very uninteresting poses. It was just people standing there with knives coming out of them. You know what I mean? So
gotcha.
It just wasn't very interesting.
But yeah, I remember that now, and yeah, I definitely would have gotten it out of my system that way too.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I feel nowadays if a kid drew a picture of somebody with knives and blood coming out, that would cause way more red alerts than it did back then when we were kids.
But maybe not. I you would expect so, but I think my kids have drawn stuff like that before.
I was gonna say maybe they kind of understand
that it's just in kids' nature
it's
to
just,
do that.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean they're going to be a killer.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, Alien.
The killer of the conversation.
Yeah. I was amazed when I finally actually got to watch Alien, because I had seen Aliens already. I was amazed at how different they are.
It is extremely different. Yeah, and I'm the opposite, because I watched Alien first and then saw Aliens.
Yeah.
And yeah, Aliens is way more action based.
Yep.
And I don't think I realized that this was technically a horror movie until the second time I watched it.
Right.
It might have even been, I might have just even kind of heard someone mention that it was a sci-fi horror movie.
Yeah, it's basically a horror movie set in space. It's
and watching it and with that knowledge, like that mindset, it's definitely there.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
And I love it. And it's hard for me to determine which one I like more, Alien or Aliens, because they are so different. Aliens is a very much, action film with a lot more characters and a lot more action, whereas Alien is a much smaller cast and has a lot more kind of suspense, I would, you could say, and horror. So they're very different, but they're both really good in their own right. But without this one, obviously, we wouldn't have the second one. So something has to be said for that.
No. This movie was. It's a really good movie.
Yeah,
it's a very good movie. And yeah, it's crazy to think that there was a time that this movie was the only alien that existed.
Oh my gosh. I thought about that while I was watching it. I thought, this is the first of what? We've got like 8 now Alien movies, if you count.
Yeah, if you bleed
Prometheus.
them into the verse, well, you got the verse Predator ones.
Right, which I was counting, yeah. So you've got this one, Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, Alien vs. Predator, Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Then we've got Prometheus, and then Alien Covenant.
Right.
So I think it's about 8.
Covenant was Ridley Scott, correct?
Yes. So was Prometheus. Yeah.
Prometheus was really okay.
Yep.
I liked Prometheus, and I remember hearing that Ridley Scott was going to do an Alien movie, and I don't know why I was thinking he hadn't done Prometheus, but I remember thinking, oh man, that's going to be fantastic. Now, obviously, Prometheus was different, and then Alien Covenant was an actual alien movie.
Right. And I was disappointed. I mean, if we ever talk about Prometheus, we can go into this in further detail, but I was disappointed with Prometheus because, number one, it was directed by Ridley Scott, and it was supposed to be like the first sci-fi movie he had done since Blade Runner. So there was kind of expectations for that. But also, they came out and they said, look, this is not a direct prequel to Alien.
How can you say that?
Well, I feel like they said that because I think at the time, I thought they were saying that because they were like, look, don't expect aliens, like the xenomorph. Don't expect the xenomorph in this movie. And I was like, that's cool. No problem. I would love to see the backstory on like that weird crazy spaceship they found.
But then it's a prequel, regardless of whether there are xenomorphs or not. If it is related to the Alien movie,
right,
and whatever happens in the Alien movie happened because of whatever is happening in Prometheus, it's a prequel.
Right. Well, and spoilers for Prometheus here because if you haven't seen Prometheus, I'm about to kind of ruin the ending for you. So I'll give you enough time to kind of fast forward, if you will, or whatever. But that's what I thought. My thought process going into the movie was, okay, it's not a direct prequel to Alien, so I'm not expecting xenomorphs in the movie, but I want to know the backstory of like the spaceship, because I mean that stuff was in the preview. Like we kind of saw that like circle spaceship thing that the Nostromos. No, Nostromos? Is that what the name of the ship is called? The crew. The crew of this film.
I remember Ridley saying it.
Yeah, I think it's Nostromos.
Or Ripley saying it once, and I don't remember what it is.
Anyway, that crew finds the ship in this movie, right? It's that big half circle. They see that creature kind of sitting in what looks like almost like a gun.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about that. Like, is that what the aliens in Prometheus are?
Well, that's the thing. Like, Prometheus showed some of that stuff in the movie, and I was like, okay, cool. We're not going to see xenomorphs, but it's going to give us like more.
Because I didn't remember that thing sitting in the chair at all.
Right.
And when I saw it this time, I was like, it looks like a giant human.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's those people from Prometheus. The thing that I didn't like about Prometheus is that it ended. It ended differently than it should have. Like, I feel like the movie should have ended with it leading right into where Alien begins. You know, like, should have ended with them sending off the signal, the warning that the ship in Alien gets, and that's what wakes them up and stuff. But instead, I think somebody at the studio or something said, well, if we do that, we can't have any sequels to Prometheus. And so
let's make sure that we can do a sequel to Prometheus.
Right. So all that stuff we saw in Prometheus that like directly ties in with Alien is not the same planet that the people in Alien go to. It's different. And it just really kind of screwed up the timeline, in my opinion, kind of. And it was, I hated the ending of Prometheus because of what they did. And I feel like it was because somebody somewhere said, well, you know, if we tie it in directly to Alien, we're not going to be able to make a Prometheus 2.
Right. Well, I'm sure especially when Prometheus was being made, they were like, we need a trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
So Prometheus is going to be the first out of a trilogy. I'm pretty sure where they were wanting to go with that.
But I feel like that's not how it started. I feel like it started as just a prequel to Alien.
Uh-huh.
And then somewhere along the line, somebody said, well, we should make this like a trilogy or whatever, you know?
Right.
And then the ending, they changed the ending to make it, oh, well, then it's not really the planet that the people in Alien go to.
See, I don't remember. I've only seen Prometheus once, and I don't remember. I vaguely remember anything. And I remember liking it, though.
It's not bad. It's just, I feel, that's my biggest beef with it, is just that it's not, it's not a direct prequel, basically. It's like I don't care if there's no xenomorphs in it. I just wanted them to kind of,
well, there is a xenomorph.
I know at the very end there is, right.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool in a way because
but it was
kind
forced.
of almost the birth of the xenomorphs, but it did feel forced too.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, but it would have been cool because this movie definitely does have some interesting mysteries to it. Like you said, like, who is that giant person in the kind of gunner's chair?
But the thing is, too, like we were talking about, how this was at one time the first Alien movie.
Yeah.
Like, I'm assuming when this was written, they were just, let's make a story and we conclude it. And then it did well, and they're like, well, we can do a sequel now. But I have a feeling. No, you never know. When this came out, what was this, 80 or 79?
79, yeah.
So you had Superman, and you had, of course, Empire Strikes Back hadn't come out, but it was being made.
Right.
And
Star Wars had come out, and I wonder if studios were trying to get more sci-fi movies made.
That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And not to mention, not only are they trying to get sci-fi movies, but they also see that they have potential for sequels. Because really, before Star Wars, which was just 2 years before this movie came out, sequels weren't really a thing. Like, there weren't movies that had sequels. You might have had a couple, like, trying to think, like, what was a sequel before Star Wars? Godfather.
Yeah, The Godfather had a couple
The
had
third
one
was in
at
the
this
80s.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in the 90s, actually.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you had The Godfather. You had, I'm sure there were more than that, but that's like all I can think of.
Not really,
moment.
because there was no reason to.
Yeah.
Like, there was no like, there just wasn't even a thought of movies being multiple parts. You had television for that, but even then, television. Anyway, yeah, who knows if they were thinking sequel for this or not. I'm just saying that at the time it was made, sequels were not really thought about very
as
often.
popular, maybe. I think for a long time, especially as a kid, sequels were considered inferior. And it wasn't until a couple of, Aliens is considered by many people better than the first one.
I like Aliens better than the first one.
Terminator 2
but I
is
haven't
another
seen
one.
Aliens for a little while, so
Right.
I don't know. Terminator 2, yeah, absolutely. I would say the second one.
Empire Strikes Back is another one. But again, it just seemed like I remember hearing that or thinking that as a kid that like part 2s were usually never as good as part 1s.
Yeah, I heard that from my dad too. Batman Returns, I'm sure he mentioned that after we watched Batman Returns.
Was not as good as Batman, sure. And maybe Superman 2 was part of that. Superman 2 maybe people didn't think was as good as Superman 1. I personally don't like it as much as Superman 1. But again, but Godfather 2, some people think is better than the first one.
I would say most people consider Godfather Part 2 better than the first. And what's funny about The Godfather, I doubt we'll ever do a podcast on it, is I've seen The Godfather 1 maybe like 10 times.
Yeah.
And I've seen The Godfather Part 2 like maybe twice.
Yeah. Well, it's because it's so long.
I don't know, man. For me, like The Godfather, plus I've just seen it so many times that I can like quote too,
Sure. Yeah.
And like I don't know. To me, the original Godfather is just absolute art. And
yeah. No, I'm actually in the same boat with you. I actually prefer the first Godfather. I think the first Godfather is the best out of the trilogy. I like the second Godfather.
What's
but
funny
again,
is, like I said, I've only seen the second one twice, and I remember when I was watching it, and I knew that people considered it better, and I was like, why?
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. I've seen the second one maybe 2 or 3 times now, but I've seen the first one maybe half a dozen times, maybe a little less. But I loved the first one, and I thought the second one just was long and kind of drawn out, and it's good. And Robert De Niro's really good in it. And Al Pacino's really good in it, but it's just story-wise, I like the first one better.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've watched The Godfather. I need to rewatch that.
Just watch.
It's about time.
I bought the new movie.
Maybe we should do a podcast on it.
Maybe we should. Maybe we should do the Godfather trilogy. The third one I've only seen once, I think, and I started watching.
I've only seen the third one once.
I've started watching it again with my wife, and she wasn't into it, so we ended up turning it off. But I bought recently, Francis Ford Coppola put out like a kind of a director's cut of the third movie called The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, which I bought on Blu-ray, but I have not watched it yet. And there's a part of me that kind of wants to rewatch the theatrical version of Godfather 3 before I watch this new version, because I feel like if I watch the new version now, I won't really know what's different.
Right.
Exactly. So I need to kind of rewatch the third one. And then watch the new one, not watch the new one, so that way I can kind of compare. And it's the same thing with Alien. I watched the director's cut tonight, and I feel like the last time I watched the director's cut, so I actually can't really remember the theatrical cut. I don't know what's different other than I looked it up and I saw that scene about what was it? What did I tell you? What was the scene?
Them on the
Dallas. Wall. Yeah, Dallas and Brett. She finds Dallas and Brett like hung to the wall by the alien. And Dallas is saying, "Kill me," and she burns him alive. Apparently, that's not in the theatrical version, but I remember seeing that scene in the last time I watched it. And I was actually going to bring it up. I remember when I was watching it tonight, I was like, I should write that down. I was like, I keep forgetting that Dallas and that she finds Dallas and Brett in this movie, and then I was like. And then I looked up. I was just curious. I was like, what's the difference between the theatrical version and the director's cut? And that scene was listed. And I was like, oh, maybe that's why I don't totally remember it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Which one's Brett?
Brett is Harry Dean Stanton. He's he's kind of wearing a Hawaiian shirt. He's the one that says right all the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They make kind of a joke about that where he's like, are you a parrot? You just say right to everything he says. He seems like he's one of the kind of repairmen of the ship. There's him and Parker, played by, and again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this name right, but Yaphet Kotto. They're kind of like the repairmen. They're the ones that are talking about the bonus, how they get paid less than everybody else. And
right,
he's the one that goes after the cat. And
I love that joke, by the way, when he's like, did you know if we don't go, you
No
guys
money.
don't get paid? And it's like, we're going.
Yeah, he's like, I'm fine with it. Let's do it. Yeah. Yeah, I looked up Yaphet Kotto because he's a really good actor, and I was like, I've seen him in something else, and the only other thing that I think I've seen him in is Live and Let Die, that James Bond movie. But he's done a bunch of stuff that I just really haven't seen, and then he stopped acting, it seemed like, in the mid 2000s. And he was born in 1939, so he's in his 80s now, I think. But yeah, like this movie primarily, and then maybe Live and Let Die are like the only two movies I really have seen him in.
So this movie is over 40 years old.
Yeah. And it's funny because when I clicked Director's Cut, it had a little intro by Ridley Scott. And it was obviously, the Director's Cut is from 2003, I think. And his little introduction, he was like, this movie, he's like, which is now almost a quarter of a century old. And I was like, it's almost half a century old now. I mean, it's not quite, I guess, but it's over 40 years old. So
no, you're right. It will be
closer
to,
you
know it.
Yeah, it's closer to half a century than it is quarter of a century.
I'm
now.
wearing a Dark Side of the Moon shirt, and this album is 50 years, over 50 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy. But yeah, this movie is 42 now. Well, it will be 42 whenever.
Yeah,
I don't know when it was released, but it will be 42
this year.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy stuff.
The answer to the meaning of life, the universe, and everything.
That's right. That's a good point. That'd be an interesting movie to talk about too.
Yeah.
I love the look of this movie though, the cinematography for it and the set design. I love the look of the ship.
Oh yeah,
it's amazing.
Oh wait, did you notice? I was thinking too because I was like, this came out 2 years after Star Wars, but they literally like at the beginning of the movie try to do like the Death Star,
right? Yeah.
Or Star Destroyer. It was a Star Destroyer.
I noticed that too later on when she gets when the self-destruct is going off and she gets into the new ship. Like it kind of the old
explosion.
Ship.
By the way, what is up with that explosion?
I don't know.
I was like, does self-destruct have to be that destructive? It was like 3 explosions that were like nuclear level, if not more.
I feel like she would have never gotten away, or like she was never far enough
I loved how
away.
too the countdown's like, you have 1 minute to exit, and I'm like, so if they wait for 60 seconds, the ship's not going to explode, or like, are they able to get out and then like, I don't believe you. You say I have a minute to get out. I think you have a minute for the ship to explode.
Right. Yeah, that's true. You don't really have a minute to leave.
Yeah, but the way that Mother was saying was,
yeah, that's true.
You have a minute to
evacuate.
Yeah.
I'm
like, no, you don't. I don't think
so.
I just have a feeling. I have a feeling.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said I was like, I feel like Ripley had not gotten far enough away for that explosion. The explosion that we saw, the 3 explosions that we saw.
Right.
I thought that too. I was like,
extremely unnecessary.
These are, we only needed 1, really.
Were there like, super secret documents on this thing? Like, why did this
It's a mining vessel. Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't know. That's weird. Did you ever play the video game Alien Isolation?
Now then again, no, I haven't. That might be the one I want to get.
It's fair. I mean, it's 7 years old now.
Yes, then that's the one. So that one apparently has good reviews, and it's like kind of like a horror survival game.
Yeah.
I definitely have that on my wish list. I just haven't gotten it yet, but one day I will.
I own it, and my roommates back in California played it a lot, and they loved it, and I bought it, and I started playing it, and I feel like I don't know why I stopped playing it. I think I'm not a huge gamer, and I feel like I didn't know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of lost interest. But watching this movie made me want to pop it back in and start over and get back into it.
I'll tell you, watching this movie, that game actually did pop in my mind, and I was like, I got to play that.
The look of the game is amazing because they recreate the look of this movie.
It's Ripley's daughter, right?
Yeah. I think you're playing her daughter trying to figure out kind of what happened with the Nostromo or whatever the ship is called. I gotta look that up so we don't keep misquoting it if we are.
Well,
it's not
Nostradamus.
No, I know that. Nostromo. Yeah, that's it. Nostromo. Yeah, so she's you're playing her daughter trying to figure out kind of what happened with the, because in her daughter's eyes she just disappeared. They never came home. You know, she doesn't know anything about what happened with Newt in the second movie or the prison planet in the third movie.
Wait a minute. They never came home? I thought in Alien 3 she was on Earth.
No, she's on like a prison planet, I think.
Oh.
Pretty sure.
Okay. I've only seen Alien 3 once.
Yeah.
And it was probably around the time that I watched Aliens. So I was probably in like middle school or like elementary, like 5th grade or middle school.
I've seen that one I think twice. I think I watched it once when I bought like the DVD set, and then I watched it again when I bought the Blu-ray set. But
I saw Resurrection in theater.
Did you really? I didn't see that one in theater. That one, what'd you think when you saw it in theater?
I wanted to like it so bad because I was a big Alien fan, but I remember thinking there was something just off.
Yeah.
Alien Resurrection, though, was kind of a big deal for me, too, because that was... When did that come out? Like, 97?
Yeah, I think so. Late 90s, yeah.
So, that would have literally only been, like, 2 to 3 years after I had seen Alien.
Yeah, that's true.
And it probably would have been one of the first movies that I saw in the theater that was rated R. Because I would have been like 12.
Oh, wow.
So 12 or 13. So obviously my dad went with me.
Yeah.
And since we had seen the Alien franchise, he was wanting to see it. But yeah, I guess so. Alien, I guess, as a whole, if you really think about it, would have been just a big impact as far as me getting into seeing harsher movies than I was used to seeing, or having permission with from my parents to see movies that I typically wouldn't have been able to see. Right. Because there wouldn't have really been any rated R movies in the theater that I would have needed to see until Alien Resurrection.
Right.
Saving Private Ryan came out in 98, I believe. And,
yeah, 98, yeah.
I saw that one in the theater.
I did too, actually.
And I remember... like I would have been like 14, I think then. So even then, my dad was like, he was like, "Hey, you want to go see Saving Private Ryan?" But it was still that mindset of it's rated R. Like it's gonna be harsh, especially this war movie where it's very realistic violence.
Right. Yeah, I'm surprised I saw Saving Private Ryan in the theater. I saw that one in the theater, and I remember Good Will Hunting was out at the same time. So maybe it was 90. No, it was 98. Because 97 was the year before, so never mind. Good Will Hunting wasn't out at the same time. But I was going to say, I remember not being able to see Good Will Hunting, and I remember hearing that Good Will Hunting had like an insane amount of language in it, which it has language in it, but I feel like it's not crazy compared to...
Well, yeah, nowadays, language has become so much more slack.
Right.
Like, I remember, first watching Tarantino movies and like just you notice, but then everyone was like, let's do Tarantino style,
right?
And now it's just it doesn't stand out as much. But
well, it's so much more prevalent than it was back then. Like back
then, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's also like, I mean, with streaming services,
it's true.
TV shows, have a lot more language in them than TV shows could have had back then.
Right.
Because they're not on TV technically. They're on a streaming service.
Because the person that's watching it has to execute watching it instead of just a kid flipping through channels.
Right.
The parent is now responsible for saying, you shouldn't be hitting the play button.
Right, exactly. So it's it's a different. Obviously, it's a much different time than it was back in the late '90s. But I did not see. So I saw Aliens. So I saw Aliens first, on probably VHS, and then I saw Alien much later. And to be honest with you, I may have seen Alien when I bought the DVD set. And I know I saw Alien 3 and Alien 4 when I bought the DVD set, and I have a vivid memory of watching Alien 4 in Michigan visiting my grandparents' house on a portable DVD player. So it's like I went down, I slept down in the basement, I think, at my grandparents' house, and I feel like I must have gone down to go to bed, and I was watching Alien Resurrection on that little portable DVD player I had when I was supposed to probably be sleeping or something. So yeah, I didn't see those movies until I was an adult. And so for a long time, I probably had only seen Aliens. But this movie, Alien 3, I think has some good moments in it. Alien Resurrection, I may have only seen the one time. I don't really have a whole lot of memory of that
I remember
movie.
Alien. I'll bring it up real quick. I remember Alien 3. I remember seeing advertisements for it on billboards.
Right, yeah.
That was pretty cool.
I actually remember I went, my parents, this is December of 91. My parents' anniversary is in December, and they used to go on trips a lot to celebrate their anniversary, and we would be, a babysitter would come and stay with us for like a weekend or a week or whatever. And that babysitter took us to go see Beauty and the Beast. And I remember she asked us, she was like, would you rather go see Beauty and the Beast or would you rather go see Hook? And we all chose Beauty and the Beast. And my parents on their trip had happened to go see Hook. And when they went to go see Hook, they had shown a preview for Alien 3. And my mom was complaining. Yeah. And my mom, when my parents got back from the trip, they were talking to the babysitter or whatever. Just, I guess, friendly conversation or whatever. And she was saying, we went and saw Hook, and they showed this preview for Alien 3. And she was like, and I couldn't believe they showed this preview. Because the preview also had, language in it, technically. It said...
Really?
Yeah, the preview said, without, just to keep this show family friendly, it said, the bee is back. That's what, the narrator of the trailer said.
The bee is back.
Yeah. And,
those honeybees.
Yeah, those bees, man. But she said that, she said something that kind of, almost scarred me. She was like, kids in the theater were crying at the sight of the xenomorph baby. And,
were they?
Apparently, I wasn't in the theater. I didn't,
Okay, I'm sorry. Just the thought of that. Should I be laughing? Am I like?
No, it's funny. It's funny.
Okay.
But it freaked me out because when we finally went to go see Hook, I was worried we were going to see this terrifying Alien 3 trailer, and I thought I was going to be scarred for life. So I actually
crying.
Yeah. So I actually closed my eyes for all the previews, and my brother tapped me when the movie started, and we watched Hook.
That's hilarious. Oh
yeah.
That's great.
So, yeah, that's my memory of Alien 3, basically. But let's talk about the cast of Alien real quick. When the movie starts off, if you've never seen the movie before and you didn't know the Alien franchise, you would have no idea that Ripley was kind of the
That's right, and I picked up on
character.
That watching the movie.
Yeah.
For a good portion, she's not even I remember...
She seems like a supporting character.
Yeah, 10 minutes in, it's all about John Hurt.
Yep.
And
I wonder if they did that on purpose, because
yes,
the first
I was
person
thinking
you
the
see
same
wake
thing.
up is John Hurt. So I wonder if you were he's the main character.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Because was Sigourney Weaver even really in anything before this?
No, I just looked her up. She did 2 or 3 things before this movie. This was definitely her first big movie.
And at least within 10 minutes into the film, she's had maybe a line.
Right.
And they haven't had that many either, because they've, been showing the ship and they're waking up and everything. But even getting into where they're she's not one of the people that goes down.
No, she's not. She stays on the ship. Yeah.
So all of those scenes, she's not in it, and it's really not until like the scene you were talking about, where she's on the intercom, like, I'm not going to let you guys in. That's really her standout, her first standout moment, is where she's like standing up for herself and saying, I'm not letting you guys in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I picked up on that too, definitely.
I thought that was cool though. And like, if you had, I mean, the trailer, who knows what the trailer showed, and I assume it didn't show much. So going into this movie, I would have assumed that like Kane or Dallas probably was the main character of the film. And then Kane being the first one, obviously, to die with the chest burster and everything, that would have really thrown me off. And I feel like that's what they were going for, showing Kane being the first one to wake up and focusing on I don't know who they focused on exactly during kind of the first like meal scene, but I feel like it was mostly the men. You know,
it was.
They might have shown.
But here's the thing: who's the other female actress?
Veronica Cartwright is her name.
She's in it at the beginning of the movie more than Sigourney Weaver.
Than Ripley. Yeah.
So even then, it's like, no, you're right. It's like they're intentionally kind of concealing Ripley.
Yeah.
Until she becomes the hero.
I think it was kind of meant to be a bait and switch type thing. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. I think it really works well. Especially, obviously, with you and I, like, especially me having seen Aliens before I saw Alien, I knew Ripley was the star of the series.
Well, did I? I don't know if I did, honestly. But I will say that when this movie came out, too, there really weren't any heroines. Like, that was not a thing.
Right. Yeah, no,
that's also, like you mentioned, is like the men. Like John Hurt and everything. And to have the female become the hero at the end was kind of groundbreaking almost for the time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But for me, like I knew Ripley was... I didn't know she was necessarily going to be the sole survivor, but I knew she was the hero of the story because she's in Aliens and she was in Alien 3. And by the time
I think you're right, and I think I did know she was in Alien 3 because I remember, the shaved head image.
Yeah.
Like I think there might have been an image because I don't remember necessarily seeing any previews for it, but maybe like one of those posters. It showed like the alien, like right there at her face.
Yeah, and she's kind of.
And it's like I think I remember seeing like half of her face with her eyes closed and like the shaved head. So I knew who. I'm pretty sure I knew who Ripley was.
Image,
yeah.
So it's watching it. You kind of know that Ripley's gonna take center stage, but it's still cool to see it kind of develop the way it did. And I think it would have been really cool to see it in the theater. There's a couple things I thought of how, like, the chest burster scene, because of, like, Spaceballs and stuff like that, like, I just knew about the chest burster scene before I saw this movie for the first time. And
I didn't.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
No, when the alien came out of his, like, it freaked me out.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I would have loved to have seen this in the theater and not known that was coming.
I can only imagine the audience.
Going on?
Yeah, the whole audience reaction. Ooh.
Yeah. But I had seen Spaceballs before I saw this movie, so I definitely, when this started happening, I was like, oh, that's where they kind of got it from, type of thing. But yeah, it's what about some of the other cast members? Dallas played by Tom Skerritt, the captain of the ship.
All the cast members are fantastic. Yeah. He did a fantastic job. John Hurt, of course. Ian Holm, who I didn't know he's in this movie, and I saw him and I was like, it took me
Bilbo.
I didn't recognize him right away.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm getting a bit of a Bilbo vibe from him. I was like, is that Ian Holm? And I looked him, and I was like, it kind of looks like him too, and that would be about the right age. And I looked him up, and yeah, sure enough.
Yep.
And I love the scene with him, after his head has been like decapitated.
Yeah.
And his movements are so like I don't like. There's one thing he does like right before he starts talking, but he's like conscious.
Yeah.
And he like does this thing with his eyes and I don't know how, like, you could just see like the way, like how still his head was. and like he was like obviously they directed him.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he wouldn't have done this himself, but the direction and Ian Holm, whatever, the way that they had him just like his movements were very robotic.
Yeah.
And it was really neat.
It's also really interesting to know after the fact that he's an android because he eats, number one. And he also has like emotions.
Yes.
He gets upset at one point with somebody.
So what's his name?
Ash?
Yes, Ash. Before he's revealed as an android, you never would. He acts like a regular human being.
Right. Which is the point, I guess, but it's like
right.
It just shows you how that technology was like,
and it does it in
very
Aliens.
advanced. Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to go into it, but it's the same thing. And
right.
Well, you mentioned, it's Bishop.
It's not a secret in the second movie. Bishop, I think.
Oh, that's right, because he does the knife thing.
Yeah,
and then they reveal he is before. Yeah, you're right.
Because Ripley has a freak out. That's where it was explained to me. So, like, you see Bishop do the knife thing on Bill Paxton's hand, and Ripley realizes that he's an android, and she's like, "Nobody told me there was an android on this ship."
Right.
And she has a big freak out.
That's right.
And I think Paul Reiser's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot she had like a thing with an android on the Nostromo," and he has to like calm her down. And Bishop even says something like, "I'm programmed not to harm people" or something like that. So. It's not a secret in the second movie that he's an android, but it is.
You're right.
It is a twist in this film that Ash was an android.
Yeah, and like I said, it got me again.
Yeah,
because it had been so long since I'd seen it, and I totally forgot. But it's funny because I reckon, like I said, when I saw that white, I knew immediately, and it's because of Bishop.
Sure.
I was like, oh, he's a robot.
Yep. And it's interesting because he, like I said, he gets frustrated, I think, at one point with one character, and he's eating at the table with him. So he's
right. and even his last word is sarcasm, like you're gonna get where you get, and I'm glad. Like, yeah, you knocked my head off, but you guys are gonna get yours too.
He's got a sarcasm setting clearly. But yeah, no, Ash is a cool character. I mean, he's obviously programmed to do whatever the company wants. The crew is expendable, and he's willing to go that far with it. So he's not like a cool person necessarily, but he's a cool character, I think.
So that's something you mentioned, expendable. Yeah, it says that. Like when Ripley's like reading the order. I guess the real quest log, mission log.
Right.
The hidden mission log. And it says crew is expendable. And so the mission the whole time was not to go mine, but to go discover this alien life form.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would assume is like they were hired to go mine, but I think maybe the company was hoping that they would discover something. And I don't know if they were trying to discover this particular thing.
Maybe, but I think could be wrong. What do you say that? Because I was thinking that they sent them out knowing that this alien life form was there. Like,
that could be. I mean, especially with the movie
how long had that
Prometheus
ship been?
I don't know.
There, that's my question.
Yeah.
And
it was written into their contracts if they ever come across like a signal, they have to go get it, or they have to go investigate. Otherwise, they won't get paid.
I believe that it was set up the whole time.
It could be.
And they were like, well, who's going to go? How are we going to find scientists and tell them that they're going to go find, an alien life? Like, we got to kind of trick them.
I wonder if the company, the Wayland Yutani company, I think that's the name, if they knew precisely where this location was, or if they had been sending kind of mining ships out,
and then this was trying
to figure out, trying to figure out where it was.
Yeah.
And so all of these mining ships that were coming back with resources, they were just like, yeah, whatever. That was a failure, Because I could definitely see them making that like the main mission, but not necessarily knowing exactly where they would find it. Or like, I don't know.
No, that's a great point, because technically, if it's a secret mission, then it would make more sense for it to be a secret mission on multiple,
Right.
like, cargoes. Because then, like you said, it's if it comes up, the android knows about it.
Right.
If it doesn't, then no one worries about it, and they get a bunch of ore.
Right. Yeah, they get some more the resources. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sneaky, that company.
Yeah. Let's talk about. I have a feeling we're probably running out of time. Am I right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I feel like there's several major things that we haven't talked about.
So much to talk about still.
Yeah. We talked about it being a horror movie, and I'll just reiterate that I felt like it definitely accomplished that, and just like we were talking about how Aliens is an action movie and this is a horror movie, like it did a really good job of being its own thing, and obviously didn't have anything to compare itself to at the time.
Right.
But it's a great starting point. Especially with where they ended up going, where Aliens is multiple aliens. It's not one. This is literally one alien.
Yep.
And it really helps go into the sequel later, and you're like, whoa, they have to deal with more than one of these things? Like,
right.
Did you see what the one did in the first movie?
Exactly. And I was going to say, one thing we haven't talked about, which I love about this, and it's one of those things that we just grew up at that time where this was kind of in pop culture, so it's one of those things that I always knew about. But the alien has acid for blood.
Yes.
I thought that was such an incredible detail that they decided to throw in there, that like you can't just stab this thing
right
to kill it,
because you'll melt.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because it will hurt you. It will kill you, really.
It literally melted through like 3 levels.
Yeah.
I loved that too, how they were showing that, where they were like, oh look, they were like watching it melt, and then they saw it eat all the way through, and they're like, let's go see what it's doing down as it's dripping onto the next floor.
Yeah.
And it did it like 3 times.
Yep. So I thought that was genius, and so to think, like you said, how difficult it was to kill one alien, and how, this thing's got acid for blood. You can't just like shoot it or something. And then in the sequel, all of a sudden we have multiples. And it's probably not shown in the trailer, but you also have a queen, which, it was just, the sequel takes it in a great direction. I think James Cameron was super smart with where he took that movie. And even though it is more of an action film rather than a horror film, I think it completely works.
Yeah.
And
this movie sets up, like you said, where they took it so well. Like,
yeah.
This movie sets the right amount of questions. It's a good universe. It takes place on a ship with a small crew, and it's just a simple story, but a creative one and a unique one at the time. And like you said, James Cameron takes that and is like, all right, now we're going to flesh out where this whole thing is. And there's not just one.
Right.
There are eggs in the first movie.
Which, by the way, we haven't even talked about the eggs or the face hugger.
Right, so the face hugger, that thing was freaky.
That thing is super freaky.
It's still creepy, but
it is.
Like when I first watched that, but yeah, watching it again, like this time, I was like, I love it.
It's an incredible, like, I just love whoever came up with the idea of having this face hugger creature that, like, basically, I guess, kind of,
and they go very scientific, scientifically into it. Like it's got this like tube down his windpipe
or whatever, yeah,
and it's feeding him oxygen. Like they were like, I think they were theorizing, but I'm assuming that's probably what it was doing, because he couldn't breathe, except through that, and then
Right.
it's just sitting there, and you're like, and they
What's
say
it doing?
yeah, they say a couple things like that's what it was. They mentioned, and I was like, brilliant. I was like, they were like, what creature would like basically suffocate its prey to keep it alive? Like it's feeding it oxygen. Why? And obviously the first time, if you didn't know about Alien and had never seen this movie, the very first audience, I'm sure some people figured it out, but there were lots of people that were like, didn't realize that it was laying an egg in his belly. And then of course you have like we talked about, the belly scene.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I think is just incredible, that the fact that there would like,
because they trick you too. He's like, the facehugger's gone and he's fine.
Right, and he's dead, and now Kane's back to normal,
right,
and everything's fine. It was just a weird thing. And then the chest burster scene happens. Yeah, exactly. And like I said, and I think that's where James Cameron kind of ran with it, because I think one of the questions James Cameron came up with was, but who laid the eggs? Like, where did the eggs come from?
Right.
And so that's where he kind of came up with the whole queen issue or queen idea and everything, which I think is super cool.
I love it.
But I just love the idea of the way that the aliens are created. You have these facehuggers that attach yourself to a host, and then the host lays the eggs in the host, and then it is born through it bursts out the chest. Like, it's just such a cool idea.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I really like this movie a lot. And for a long time, I was thinking I liked this movie more than Aliens, but honestly, I don't know. I'd probably have to watch Aliens again.
Like I said, I've seen Aliens like 6 to 10 times, and I've seen this one. This is probably the third time. I'm definitely an Aliens fan, but I really like Alien is a very, very, very good movie.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, there's one thing I wanted to mention before we end this is what is the room exactly on that ship that has the dripping water and the hanging chains? It's basically the room where Brett dies. He's like looking for the cat.
Oh yeah.
And there's like dripping water.
Right.
I don't really understand what
and
that is.
And when I was watching that, I thought I remembered that there was a part where the dripping water, and then I thought I remembered an alien. Actually, the water was like, how
the saliva.
Yeah, because later they hadn't shown it yet during that scene, but later they do show like the close up of the alien's mouth, and it's like water's just like gushing.
Pouring. Yeah.
So, like I said, that was after the Brett scene, but I remember watching the Brett scene this time and seeing that, and I was thinking, isn't there an alien like that's gonna? Because his eyes were closed.
Yeah,
and I was like, isn't there an alien that's going to kind of like lean down really close to him? That would have actually been really cool.
It would have been creepy for sure. That's actually one of my favorite moments in the movie. It's kind of a jump scare, but it's after Sigourney Weaver gets on kind of the lifeboat, and the Nostromo blows up, and she thinks she's all safe, and she's like punching buttons in and stuff.
By the way, what was the deal with that? Was the alien hurt? Was it asleep? Why?
I think, it was like, I guess it was just kind of hiding out. Like, just maybe it was kind of...
He's like, I'm safe here. She doesn't know I'm here.
Right, yeah, exactly, I guess. But that's what I love. Like, the shape of the xenomorph head was very similar to kind of the wall of that little lifeboat.
Well, let's talk about the design of the xenomorph to begin
itself?
With. So, I don't remember who does it, but there's a very famous artist.
H.R. Geiger, right? Is that his name? H.R. Geiger? Something like that?
I don't know.
But it's Geiger. I can't remember if it's H.R., if I'm getting that right. Let me look real quick.
But anyway, while you're looking that up, he his art is I love the design that they use.
H.R. Geiger. Yeah, it's H.R. Yeah.
And he obviously did stuff in this style before the Alien movie, right?
Right. Yeah.
Was it Aliens that he would work on? Not the Fox franchise, but just like the actual, like, was it Demons?
I actually don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Regardless, it's obviously very iconic, and this, I would assume, really propelled the style into the pop culture.
For sure.
And yeah, when you see alien style art or design, like it's, that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to pop in that Alien Isolation game and play it, just play it again, cuz like I said, the production design of the game is, it looks like you're in this movie, and it's creepy and dark, and you never know what's going to pop out at you and stuff. So it's pretty cool, and I think I might have to play it. Yeah, I love this movie. I think this movie's great. And
real quick, back to the design. I love how the design of the alien, it has a humanoid aspect to it, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is actually, so in this, it's at least in this first movie. I don't know about the
it was
second
definitely
movie.
the more humanoid version in this one.
This first movie, it's a guy in a costume, and I feel like there's maybe 1 or 2 shots in this film. It doesn't ruin it by any means for me, but there's like 1 or 2 shots in the film where you can kind of tell it's a guy in a costume.
Yeah, I think I know. Yes, I would agree. Now, let me ask you this. In Aliens, do the knees bend like humans, or are they reverse?
I don't recall.
I can't either.
I know in Alien 3, the face hugger, I guess, attaches to a dog. So the alien that's born is actually kind of a 4-legged alien. So I don't recall in Aliens what they look like this alien, but I don't remember if they have any sort of weird attributes other than being kind of humanoid.
Yeah, I can't remember. Anyway, and then you have obviously the very long, like, skull
head. Yeah, skull. Yeah.
That it's,
and seemingly has no eyes.
Yes, it's weird. It's a very weird design.
It's super weird, but it's like, it's really cool at the same time.
Yes, it's memorable.
Absolutely.
It almost looks like bone to a degree. Like you've got like
it's like an exoskeleton.
Yes, almost. like the back and everything, and then it has that really cool like scorpion like spear tail.
Yeah.
It's an awesome design for an alien. It's just, and it's obviously able to be very quick, stealthy.
Now that you mention it, I almost feel like my first introduction to what the xenomorphs actually looked like was probably action figures, because I know they made toys for some of these movies, and I probably saw them in Toys R Us or whatever toy store.
That's a good point and question for me, because I know that obviously before I saw this movie, I knew what aliens looked like.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, me too.
So that was definitely not a surprise to see them. Now to see the small one that came out of the chest, and then then which was really cool, you see the skin that he has shed,
right,
and he is now bigger and
huge.
Yeah. So I didn't know that
they grow very fast.
They're like gremlins. Give them water, and well, I guess they just become evil. But anyway, that's about all I have to say about Alien.
All right. Well, let's go into the rating for it. What would you give this movie?
4 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think I would give it 4 out of 5 as well. I think it is a really solid movie. It's one of my favorite kind of sci-fi horror films. I don't actually really know too many sci-fi horror films, I suppose, but it's up there.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it works really well.
It's up there. Just take off the horror, levels. I would say. Even in just the sci-fi genre itself, I'd say Alien is way up there.
It lands a spot. Yeah, for sure. Well, we'd love to know what you think about Alien. You can always leave us a comment on our website, cinemaheroes.com. You can leave us a comment on Facebook, facebook.com/SM and SM podcast. You can tweet at us on Twitter @CinemaHeroes. That's our Instagram handle as well. Or if you're watching this video on YouTube, which I hope you are, you can leave a video. You can leave a comment on this video. We'd love to hear from you any way you want to reach out. I think that about wraps it up for this episode, though. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzo.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.